welcome back to our second interview. Today we have with us Lucie, who is currently doing her PhD in economics at Emory University. So before we get into the interview questions, Lucie, can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Lucie. I graduated in 2021. I was a double major in economics and math at Georgetown, and now I'm in Atlanta getting my PhD at Emory.
That sounds great. So I guess the first question that I'll ask you is, when you were trying to decide like your career path, what you want to do after graduation, what were some pivotal moments in that journey?
Yeah, so I think I was really lucky. My dad actually also got his PhD in economics, so I had that like influence at home where I knew that academia was something that I was interested in doing. I loved learning and I loved teaching, whether it was like TAing or just like tutoring. I loved doing that as a kid, and in high school and at Georgetown. So I think that helped influence me being like, oh, this is something that's like on my radar and that I wanted to do. And then when I was at Georgetown, I had some great econ professors and even math professors who like pushed me to do my best. And I was like, oh, this is actually something that is really interesting that I want to keep pursuing. Because I think a lot of the times, if you don't have like a good experience in college, it often is like, oh, there's no way that I want to do that. But I was really lucky, like the courses that I took and the material that was covered like fit my interest perfectly. So I knew that I wanted to do it, but I think graduate school, especially PhDs, are really competitive. So I was always a little bit wary of like, oh, what if I'm not like smart enough, or like what if I don't fit in, what if I don't know what I'm doing? And like going straight from undergrad to a graduate program is difficult because I didn't have any research experience. So I was lucky that I did get to talk to some professors about it, and they were like, listen, if this is what you're interested in, like, why not pursue it right away? There's no point in waiting if you know that you want to do like a 5 or 6 year program. So I think one of the best things I had was my resources and support at Georgetown, because my professors would sit down and like talk to me for an hour of like, okay, if this is what you want to do, like let's make a plan. What classes should you take? Like how should you prepare? And I think that was really nice because I like not many of my friends wanted to do similar things as me, so I needed some sort of network to talk to. So that was good for me.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess in regards to that journey that you described, did you face any like obstacles or barriers, either like in like a professional sense or a personal sense, and like determining where you are today? I know you kind of touched on like not having like a big group of people who are kind of doing the same thing as you, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things I wanted to do, like an at Georgetown too, a lot of people want to do internships over the summer, and it's really competitive and everyone gets like such great jobs, and I was like, oh, I want to do that because that will also like help me reach my goal of getting into a program. And I was rejected from every single one that I applied to. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Like, nobody seems to want to hire me. Like, even after interviews that I think went well, I just never got like a second round interview or anything like that. And some of them were at the Fed, which is like a huge stepping stone for a lot of people who get their PhDs. They do an internship or work there for a while. So, I definitely was a little bit discouraged because I was like, if I can't even get an internship, like how am I gonna get an acceptance to a program and also like succeed in that? But I think I had to remind myself like you will not get everything that you want. Like I am not at MIT getting my econ PhD, and that's totally okay. Like there's a lot of factors that go into like where you'll end up being and where you'll be successful. And even though like Emory might not be the number one econ program in the United States, like I think the environment and everything here fits me really well. And I think that was something that I had to like get used to. Like you're going to face rejection and it hurts, but also that's part of how you grow and how you move on and move forward.
That's really good advice. And that kind of relates to like my next question, which is going to be about like what advice would you give to yourself when you were starting college 4 to 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think I say this, but I know that college me would never have listened, but not to worry about grades as much as I did. I think like one time I just did really bad on a math exam and I thought my life was over. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not going to get an A or even an A minus and like I'm going to fail college," which is the silliest thing ever. And now like 5, 6 years out, I'm like, that was so silly. Like, I get to grade and TA for undergrads now, and I'm like, guys, I promise you, like, grades obviously are important for like jobs and grad school, but the learning process is so much more important. Like, you understanding the content in a course is so much more important than the grade that you get because you keep that with you as you go along. At a certain point, the grade that you get won't matter. Like now that we're in grad school, like my GPA doesn't matter. Obviously, I want to do well, but the most important part is like getting a deep understanding of what I'm learning. So,
Right. That makes sense. And that's really good advice. My next question for you is during your college career, what were some key activities for you that you felt were most insightful in terms of your professional or personal development?
yeah, so I didn't do that much professional or research stuff when I was an undergrad, but I think that's okay. Like I think a lot of people are so of like I need to publish a paper in undergrad and I'm like that's obviously it's great if you do that. I admire you. I could never have done that, but I actually think one of the greatest things that I did was I participated in GAP. So that was the Georgetown Admissions Ambassador Program. And me and my friend Mike ended up being the co-presidents. And it's like to encourage, like we run the student acceptance weekends for like high school seniors who got into Georgetown. But with that, you meet so many people from like every different college, different majors, and we had panels and stuff. And I learned so much about what other people were doing. And I think that like really pushed me to be like, oh, what am I actually passionate about? And what can I talk about to future Georgetown students of like what I want to do? And that really like helped me narrow down like, okay, I'm not doing like I wanted to do economics. I was really liked math and I had to ask myself like, why do I like that? Like what is my goal after that? Because so many parents and students are like, well, why are you an econ major? And at first I was like, I don't really know. Like I just was good at it and kind of liked it, but now I'm like, oh, these are things I actually enjoy.
My next question to you is what are you most proud of today?
I think I'm most proud of sticking with what my interests were. I think like there were a lot of times where I was like, I don't know if I can pursue this or I wanted to give up. And now I'm like, I'm so glad that I stuck with econ and math. And like, I'm really happy where I am right now and the work that I'm doing. And I think there's always a limit of like how far to push yourself before it like you should take care of yourself before like doing something that you don't enjoy, but if you do enjoy something like sometimes it's worth that extra push and like to persevere through like any hardships that you have. So
In terms of like your activities and like things you were a part of, would you go back and change anything now that you're looking back upon your college career? Or would you keep it the way it was?
I think I would keep most of it the way it was. I think as so I was a bachelor of arts math major and they have a bachelor of science math major at Georgetown, and I think for the field that I'm in I do wish I did the bachelor of science because it was just a little bit more rigorous. But that being said, like I don't know if college me could have like managed to do the extra coursework that came along with that, but yeah, I think like there's always things that you can improve on. Like I wish I took more coding classes. Like even though it was really tough, it's something that I have to learn now. And so looking back, I'm like, oh, it would have been nice if I knew a little bit more. But um yeah, I think overall like pretty happy with the way that I did things, but maybe small improvements in like coursework and stuff.
That makes sense. And my next question to you kind of relates to what you mentioned. So, um, one, can you talk a little more about like your major or majors? And also you mentioned like Bachelor's of Science in Econ versus Bachelor of Arts. So maybe like for the people watching, if you could like explain the differences and nuances. And also if you felt like your majors were the right ones for you and how you went about choosing them or changing them. So
Yeah, so I took AP Micro and Macro Economics in high school, really liked it. So when I came to Georgetown, I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna do an econ major. And then a lot of people at Georgetown do like econ and gov majors. Some of them like do languages, things like that. But I have always been a math oriented person. And my dad also gave me the advice of like, if you want to do econ, maybe having a math background won't hurt. So, doing the math and econ double major definitely impacted my like career path. And I'm really glad that I did the math major. I think it was difficult, but it's helped me so much now that I'm like, thank God I did that. And my professors were like, I still email some of my Georgetown math professors because they can help me answer a question that I'm like, oh, I know you covered this like 3 years ago, but can you give me a little reminder? And then for the math major, so the Bachelor of Arts math major has fewer requirements, and you don't have to take like a computer science or coding class for that major, and you don't have to take complex analysis, which is one of the things that I wish I had taken. And then the Bachelor of Science is just a little bit more rigorous. I think it has more course requirements. So I think if you want to do like math, computer science, something like that in the future, having the Bachelor of Science is definitely going to be useful and helpful. But for me, like econ was my main focus and the math was just like to support that. So I think a Bachelor of Arts was okay. Obviously, more math is never hurts in this field, but I think it was like good enough.
okay, that makes sense. My last question to you is, how has your gender identity impacted what barriers you faced when pursuing your career? And how do you feel empowered by it when pursuing your current position?
Yeah, so I think, especially in economics, it's a very white man dominated field. And that was definitely intimidating when I was applying because, like, almost all of my professors at Georgetown, except one for econ, was a white man. And so I was like, I don't see any representation of like either like my culture or even being a woman, like in my professors. Like, what if I don't belong or like why don't I belong? So it definitely like triggered like a little warning in my head of like, oh, this might not be easy to like jump into this field. But I've been really lucky at Emory. We are a very diverse cohort. So we have my cohort's 10 and six of us are we identify as female. So we like have a lot of diversity. We have a ton of international students from different cultures. So like it's so nice to be in an environment where people are willing to learn. And I think that's really important when you think about your future of where you want to be. Like obviously being at the best, like the best offer that someone gives you is really good and admirable, but also think about the environment that that might entail. So like I know a lot of top tier schools in econ are very male dominated even in their students, and that was something that I like didn't want, and I didn't get in, but I think it was like a blessing in disguise because I was like, I love the like environment, the welcoming environment that Emory has to offer for me. And then kind of going along with that, we have so many women in our department. We actually started a women's mentoring like discussion dinner night that we do like every year, and we meet with all the female deans at a dinner because they care so much about our belonging, and like it's so nice to talk to other like leaders that are women to be like, oh, you face this too, like where it's not just us. And we get tips of like, how do you respond if someone says something like a little rude or like like any of those things. So it's been really great here. I definitely feel like I have a really great support system of like both women but also men who like support us and are like allies. So that's really great here.
That's great. I think I'm going to conclude with one more question, and that is for someone who's starting college, maybe like in the next few months, specifically maybe at Georgetown, what are some things that you recommend they do either for their academics or for their extracurriculars or just like in general, part of Georgetown? Like, what are just some things that like you recommend that they do?
Yeah, so I was in the Georgetown College, and so I think their like core curriculum is like so good because I think it pushed me to take classes that I didn't think that I like wouldn't have taken otherwise. And so I would say like be open to all the classes that you want to take. I was not like an English or history person ever. Like I did not like writing papers, which is funny because now I have to write like a 50-page paper for my dissertation, but it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I actually really loved and learned so much from my courses, like outside of my majors. So I would say like be open and be willing to change, like be flexible in your classes and what your majors and minors could be. I added a French minor like really late in my college career, and it was so like it was just like a nice breather from like the numerical heavy stuff that I was doing in my other classes. Um, and then I would say, like, again, grades are really important, especially in college. I know that's ingrained in us, but make sure you take care of your mental health. Like, I see that even here. Like, sometimes we work so much and we never take a break, and that makes you less productive at the end of the day. So, like, make sure you take care of yourself because if you're healthy, both like mentally and physically, then you'll be able to succeed academically and like socially and in every other aspect.
It's really good advice. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. This was a really helpful interview. So yeah, thank you.
Mhm.